Greetings Internet, DDA here, and I'm feeling a little nerdy today. Welcome to week 15 of my card of the week. This is actually our third rotation of card of the week, so we're going to start back up again this week with Black Style. My scouter was set off by your suggestions, Internet, so for this week for Black Style, I chose Black Foreshadowing. Banish after use. Endurance 3. Power. Destroy the top X cards of your opponent's life deck and gain X stages. X equals the number of different card types in your opponent's banish zone. For your offense, this card is going to lay the hate on your opponent. This card discards a card from your opponent's life deck for each different card type he has removed. That gives this card a maximum damage potential of 7 cards. Being that this is destroyed cards discarded from your life deck, that means that those 7 cards are going to be unaffected by endurance, making the total damage potential of this card very high. The only caveat with this is, if you destroy Dragon Balls from your opponent's deck with this card, it's going to count for damage while also going to the bottom of his life deck. He kind of gets a freebie there. Although the maximum damage potential of this card is 7, you're not always going to be able to see 7 cards. You'll find, most often, that X is going to be able to equal 3 or higher quite easily. 3 different card types being Physical Combat, Energy Combat, and Event. Most decks play all of these 3 card types. Getting 5 cards with this isn't too far off, as a lot of decks plays drills and setups as well. Consider yourself lucky if you get 6 or 7 different card types in their banish zone. This card is not an attack. That means it doesn't matter what blocks your opponent has in his hand. This card is going to be doing damage regardless of his effects on the field. None of his drills that modify your damage, like Orange Hiding Drill, or drills that stop attacks is going to affect this card, and your opponent can do very little to stop it. Even more so for your offense, this gains stages. That means if you're at 0 and you have one of those awesome black energy attacks in your hand, like Black Energy Web or Black Counter Ball, you can still perform it by playing this card. The big downside with this card in terms of your offense is it's not really good if you draw it early. Black Reflection falls into a very similar category. If you draw this card in the first or second turn of the game, it may have very little to no effect. You haven't really given yourself time to actually remove the cards from the game. X may be only 1. So for these reasons, I'm going to give this card a 4 out of 5 for your offense. This card is direct damage, and none of the normal defenses that people play in their decks will affect this card. There are some players in this game that think the recursion of Time is a Warrior's tool is a problem. Get around Time is a Warrior's tool with this card. Next up for defense, you're going to see right away that this card has Endurance 3. Endurance 3 packs a wallop. If you add 3 of these cards into your deck, you're effectively increasing your life deck size by about 12 cards, give or take. Now, that's assuming, of course, that every time you overturn one of these cards for damage, not only can you use its endurance, but you're utilizing the full Endurance 3. This card gains stages, and as a defensive ability, gaining stages has no opposition. Gaining stages is often overlooked, but really good Dragon Ball Z players know the power of this ability. It helps you in so many ways, not only for paying for your own attacks, but also absorbing damage. Gaining 4 or 5 stages in combat will, yes, absorb 4 or 5 damage, but it'll also increase your damage on the AT chart and reduce your opponent's damage against you. Factoring in that, this single card could easily reduce the damage you take in combat by up to 10 cards. Decks are going crazy with combos right now. With Dragon Ball 7 putting 3 cards to the top of your life deck, Heroic Assistance putting a card to the top of your life deck for heroes, Blue Positioning Drill, Black Evasion, there are lots of decks out there that are putting cards to the top of their life deck to draw later on. Black Foreshadowing stands as a perfect counter card to those situations. Immediately discard all those cards with Black Foreshadowing. A downside that this card has is that it is an event, and I know that we're talking about events here, but this is an important downside, and I think a lot of players right now are kind of overlooking this. We're all getting a little too comfortable in the fact that energy spheres are ultra rares, and not that many people have them. There will be energy spheres in decks in competitive play, know this. And the more events that you're playing in your deck, you're only guaranteeing your opponent being able to sphere a really high value event. A bunch of styles already have great answers to events. It's a powerful event, no doubt, but it only takes 1 Saiyan domination to regret those 3 events that you have in your hand. So for these reasons, I'm going to give this card a 4.5 out of 5 for defense. Being unstoppable destruction of your opponent's life deck gives you a lot of options for disruption. Don't let him use that card he just put on the top of his life deck. As well as any seasoned player of this card game would know that gaining stages is one of the most powerful abilities you can have in a card. Truly defensive, absorb all that damage. And finally, for combo potential, this card falls right in line for exactly what black is trying to do. There are a bunch of black cards that support the use of this card, and remove cards from your opponent's life deck or discard pile. Accumulate those different card types quickly by using your mastery several times throughout the game. This card, along with Black Scout Maneuver and Black Searching Technique, gives black the chance to be truly passive aggressive. Krillin Black only plays 1 or 2 attacks in its deck, but somehow it just keeps winning by survival victory. Using Black Chomp before you play this card will increase its damage by 1. But the main problem this card is going to fall into with combo potential is that the idea of card destruction, milling, is not really supported in black yet. Black has a few cards to search through your opponent's life deck and destroy or banish key cards. However, it doesn't have that many cards that play on this idea of passively destroying cards off the top of his life deck. There aren't any cards outside of Black Chomp that modify the damage of milling. There should be some sort of ability that triggers when your opponent overturns Dragon Balls with your destruction abilities. They're already saving themselves a card in damage. We should be getting something for that. So for these reasons, I'm going to give this card a 3.5 out of 5 for combo potential. Destruction of your opponent's life deck based on their banish zone and gaining stages. A control card through and through. Black in its entirety supports this card. However, there aren't that many cards that play off of milling in terms of modification. X is usually just going to be X, and there's really nothing else fancy that's going to happen here. Adding up the scores gives this card a total of 12 out of 15. A really strong black card, probably one of the strongest black cards that it got. What really sells this card for me is the stage gain. It's just a really underappreciated ability. But the amount of damage that you can add, or the amount of damage that you can absorb, considering you performing an extra energy attack in your hand, or having a little bit more damage on the AT chart, or absorbing the damage from 1 or even sometimes 2 full physical attacks with just this card, you'll clearly see it at that point. Milling, stage gain, and endurance 3, this card is all in one. So I hope you liked week 15 of my card of the week. Next week is blue style, so if you have an idea of what blue style card I should review, please comment in the comment section below. Please don't hesitate to hit that like button if you like this video, and as always, turn your dial to Random Number Gaming for weekly updates for the Dragon Ball Z card game.